The dedication to rescuing healthy, adoptable animals from the risk of euthanasia has garnered the nonprofit organization Loving All Animals a reputation of compassion and selflessness, befitting of the name. Here in the Coachella Valley, Jeanette Guzman is the shelter supervisor of the Pet Rescue Center, where she has been managing the shelter and care of adoptable pets for over 4 years and has seen thousands of animals be safely surrendered, sheltered, or fostered, and finally adopted into forever homes.
Well, we are, if you're comparing shelters in general, we're a private rescue/shelter. We originally started as a foster program. We had no shelter for the animals. We are different because than regular city and county shelters is because we are a rescue.
As a rescue center, the organization makes sure to do everything possible to keep the animals off the streets and into loving homes as soon as possible. As the shelter supervisor, Guzman oversees all the animals that come through the shelter.
We only are limited to a certain amount of animals. I know the other organizations are as well, but our particular rescue here at the shelter, at least, is limited to 10 dogs and 9 cats. We don't house cats here at the moment because we don't have a set location for them legally for us to have a shelter with cats and dogs. They have to have a different room and filtration system. So that's why we can't take in cats right at this time. Eventually we will once we look to expand and build a shelter that suits those animals.
Although the facility can only accept dogs into the shelter, the organization's plans to expand are not only looking to change that, but to improve the facility in many ways that include quality of life alterations. Michael Phipps Russell, Executive Director and President of the Board of Directors of Loving All Animals, has many plans for the facility's expansion.
We will be changing up our shelter to be more focused. Prior to 2019, pretty much the overwhelming effort of all of us was to simply stop the killing of adoptable animals. And that is not something that you can invent a machine to help you do. You have to do it one animal at a time. So it takes an enormous, huge population of humans working together to address that issue.
The effort that the public can offer to help animals in shelters and strays in their community can take many shapes and forms.
There are lots of ways the public can help a nonprofit. Number one being donate. If you can't afford to donate, maybe you can donate your time by volunteering to transport animals, volunteering to come here and help clean the shelter, volunteer to help raise money, or just get more to get more volunteers in, or even volunteer with assisting us with our future education programs. Coming in, learning a little bit about what we do, learning what you can do to help and educate people, or even volunteering to assist with our fundraising events, because it takes a village to do that.
The Pet Rescue Center often relies on the generous help of the public. One of those people is Joanne Sprouse, who volunteers her time to the shelter on occasion.
And I am a new volunteer. I recently lost my dog, so I'm kind of getting my puppy fix through this until I'm ready to adopt. So help clean the stalls, feed the dogs, and walk them, play with them.
Sprouse enjoys keeping the animals company and socializing with them every time she comes to the shelter, as it is crucial the dogs get human interaction and remain sociable during their stay.
I love animals. I've always had animals in my life. They're loving unconditionally, and they need love and they need care. Not everybody appreciates them.
Another member of the community, Diane Medley, helps the rescue center by fostering dogs and giving them temporary homes, and has done so for years.
Probably about 5 years, but since probably for 40 years, if I've found a stray, I've taken it in, posted flyers, tried to find the parents and the owners. That was way before social media, which makes it easier now. It's wonderful to foster because it gets these dogs out of the kennel in a stressful environment, and they get out of there. You can do a little bit of training if you're so inclined. It gives them some socialization, and they don't have to be in a stressful environment. And it's not something that's permanent. If you have a cruise that you have to take in a month, say I'm available to foster a dog for a month. And generally, most of them get adopted, in my experience, within a month. Some of them not as quickly, some of them a lot more quickly. But it's perfect for people that want to travel, that love the companion of an animal, and can just do it for short bursts. And it's perfect. I mean, you can do it for cats, you can do it for dogs. I think it's great if you're an animal lover but just don't have the time because you travel. Or even the expense. If it's too expensive, to buy dog food and feed dog, that kind of thing. If you're on a budget, the rescue pays for everything. And then you get the love and companionship of a dog.
Fostering, volunteering, and donating are important to help with animal issues in the community, but there are more ways still. An individual can make a difference.
The number one item that there's actually two. They're both of equal importance. The first one is I really would love it if everyone would spay or neuter their cats. We have a horrible overpopulation of cats here in the Coachella Valley. However, that extends across the state as well. But specifically to our local region, we definitely need a community initiative that everyone embraces and says, oh, I have a cat, I need to get this cat spayed or neutered. And we can't go into private households to do that. That's something that has to originate, a feeling that has to originate in the owner of that cat to get them taken to a veterinarian to have them spayed or neutered. So that, if we can instill a feeling that I must do this, that would be wonderful.
Stray cats are a huge problem throughout the United States, and here in California, the problem persists as well, mostly due to cats being lost and never found by their owners. Remaining in the streets, these cats will often reproduce and increase the population of stray cats.
We also have a horrible situation with lost animals. It is the number one reason why animals are turned into animal control. And again, once they're there is that potential of risk of euthanasia. So we want to keep them from going in there. That the public itself can be a member to help prevent them from entering animal control. Lost and found pets, we have an integrated electronic system that we can use. It's accessible by everyone who has internet access, or if you just have a phone, we can download it for you. But everyone who finds an animal should report that animal. And everyone who's lost an animal should report that animal.
A lot of the problems that the community faces when it comes to its animal population have a solution. However, many programs, services, and resources are not reaching the community's radar. Getting the word out is something organizations might struggle with. For Loving All Animals Coachella Rescue Center, Janet McAfee has taken it upon herself to tackle these issues and reaching the community.
I've been working for Loving All Animals for the last 12 years. I started out as the dog rescue adoption director. I've done that, and I still do many of those same duties. But I also do our social media. I write for several magazines, the Desert Sun newspaper, the CV Weekly magazine, and I write about rescue animals, primarily dogs and cats. Sometimes other animals as well get involved, such as horses. I've done a lot of articles about horses. I also do humane education. I've done some speaking to some of our local schools, to school children about how do you treat animals. Show me your pet, and we've had kind of an interaction with their pets and some of the issues that they face.
One of the issues that the community is facing is vet care availability. Making an appointment for your pet is almost impossible. And pet owners aren't the only ones struggling to get their animals checked by a vet.
Getting vet appointments to see our animals. We only have one emergency clinic out here, and it's pretty much always full. So at the height of the pandemic, they were putting, what was considered a list of what was considered an emergency. And even I think we had a cat that was in fear of having a broken leg, and that cat was turned down because of, the ones that were coming in dying or in danger of dying were the ones that were seen first, and the rest had to be put on a waiting list. So it's some lack of vets and lack of vet transport or lack of vet appointments or the wait time. That does make us a fool because we can't get the animals adopted until we've got all that medical care.
Since this lack of vet care or lack of access to vet care is affecting everyone in the community, including shelters, there have been efforts to help prospective veterinarians.
We're having challenges as a community getting veterinarian appointments. Everyone is having this problem. It's not just animal welfare. So we are hoping as the year progresses, that we will be able to find funding for scholarships for people to get involved and get an education in veterinary medicine. This is kind of a new thing for us, and so we're doing a crash course on how to have sponsor scholarships at our local community college, and how does one do that, right? So I think we figured that part out, so now we can start talking about raising money. But we don't want any barriers for people entering the workforce, and tuition can be a barrier to some of our potentially great future veterinarians and future vet tech staff. So we want to eliminate those barriers, especially now that there's such a shortage of veterinary staff facing our community. So we'll be doing that later on in 2022.
One of the things that organizations like Loving All Animals want is to have more youth participate in their organization, whether it be as new veterinarians or new champions for the cause.
We're getting older. Our group that started Loving All Animals, a lot of us are getting older. My biggest problem is I have almost no foster parents who can handle a big dog because they're now 77 years old and they've got a bad back. Okay? This is one of our biggest challenges. The age in the community, because there's so many retirees here. And we're so thankful for people like you coming to our shelter and volunteering. You're the next wave, and you're going to tell others and spread the word. Just that you young people are our future. You're the ones with the talent. You've got the computer skills that people in my age group don't have. So that's why we're so lucky to have you helping us, because you've got the technology to actually solve this problem. Social media, I want to add this. When I first started 12 years ago, some of the shelters in San Bernardino had an 20% live release rate out of the San Bernardino County and city shelters. That means 80% of the animals that went in there did not come out alive. That changed with social media. That changed with Facebook. All of a sudden, an animal that was never seen, in a dingy shelter on a back dead-end street, and they're usually not located. They're not located in your main streets where everybody drives by. They're usually in an industrial area. The one in San Bernardino is on a dead-end street. Now, somebody goes in, takes a picture, shares it on Facebook. I have 1,600 friends. They don't all look at everything I do, but I tag key people. I tag 35 people on a dog that needs out. And think of the hundreds of people that now see this beautiful dog at a county shelter, and they go out there and adopt it. So it has changed everything for animals. It's wonderful, and that's really through youth and through technology.
Working for a nonprofit is a gift that keeps on giving for many. Fighting for a larger cause and helping the community can open many doors for progress and change.
Where I work in particular is an animal welfare. So that is, I gotta say, is my favorite part about working in a nonprofit, is working with the animals. In a nonprofit setting, it is a little bit different than your typical business, because even though we are a business, our business is, in the nonprofit setting, it's got a little bit more heart, I would say, than just making a paycheck. There's a lot more to it, a lot of lives involved, and by the lives that I'm discussing are the local animals here in our valley.
It's the challenge that you wake up every day knowing that you're going to be addressing something that will help make our local community a better place to live. For me, it's focusing on the plight and conditions of how we care for our animals in our valley. They play an integral part in our life here, and I'd like to see them have the best chance possible for a great life.
I just relocated to this area 3.5 years ago, and the first time I went to a local grocery store, I had my dog Wamoka with me. I left the air conditioning on and left her in the car. And when I came out, there were 2 women from a local rescue waiting for me with their arms crossed, and they said, "You cannot do that." And I said, "But my air conditioning's on." They said, "It doesn't matter. They'll break your windows and take your dog if you do that." So I was very much appreciative that they forewarned me of that, because living in the beach area was not an issue. But here in the desert, I can see why it would be an issue if the car turns off, if the dog's stuck. And I noticed that a lot of the stores here in the community, they allow you to take your dogs in if they're well behaved and they don't, mess. Which I thought was great, because Coachella Valley is a dog haven. It really is. I was like, wow, this is great.